I don't peak for one day. I stay capable every day. Ready? I don't build up to a moment, don't take before a test. I stay at the exact level where I'm always at my best. Available, no countdown, no special training block, just a constant baseline, steady like a clock. Always don't stop ticking, don't peak once and fade. Every single day's a rep toward the standard I made. Permanent, not seasonal, not a phase I'm building to. Ready every morning, that's the actual thing I do. Life don't send a calendar invite for when it's gonna test. No RSVP required, no time to get undressed. From the version of me that's soft, that's out of shape, I stay in the exact condition, no last minute escape. Route available, that's the actual insurance I carry. Not for one event, not for a competition. I'm wary of the version of readiness that fades after the show. Mine don't fade, mine's the baseline, that's the only flow. I don't get to choose when life decides to hand the test, so I don't get to choose when I decide to rest. Completely off the standard I maintain year-round, not the flashy peak, just a steady, solid ground that never drops below a certain floor. I've said that's the actual insurance, that's the only bet I'm willing to make it. Just the future I can't see, staying capable always, that's the only key. Some train for a single day, a single competition date. I train for whatever Tuesday decide to activate. Without warning, without a program built around one exact moment, I stay ready. Solid sound every single day, that's not exhausting, that's the goal. Building the baseline strong enough to handle whatever role life has me next. No tapering down after the peak, just constant readiness, constant, never weak. I've seen dudes peak for a meet and fall completely apart. 6 months later, softer, that ain't how I start. Every single season I don't build up and let go, I maintain the exact level, that's the only flow that makes sense to me. Permanent over temporary, steady over spike, that's not ordinary. That's a choice most people never actually make. Ready every day, that's the standard I don't break. So whatever shows up, whatever life decides to send, I'm already capable, I don't need to pretend. Preparation don't need the extra weeks to get right. I stay at the exact level day and night. Crime not peak, that's the actual difference here. Constant capability, not seasonal, not once a year. I was never gonna wait for the perfect moment to arrive. I stay ready every day. That's how I survive. Still ready every day. Still ready. Stop counting the reps. Make the reps count. Full force. Full force. Program said 8 reps, I stopped at 6 today. Body genuinely done, no shame in that exact play. Some days it's 12 before the muscle taps out clean. I don't chase the number, I chase what the effort means. Right now in this exact set, on this exact day. Not what a program on paper had to say. Yesterday about what I should be able to do. Today's exertion is the only compass that's true. I used to force the exact number even when it felt wrong. Grinding out reps with garbage form just to prove I'm strong enough for the plan. Learn the hard way, that's backwards. The plan's a guideline, not a contract, not a hazard. I'm obligated to follow past what my body's telling me. Some sets I push too extra cause the tank's still swelling. See, that's the actual skill, reading the exact signal, not the number circled on a page. That's not essential. I stopped the set at 4 reps once, programs that do 10. Form was breaking down, I wasn't gonna push again. Past the point where it stopped building and started to risk. The number on the page don't know the exact discompression happening in my spine. Don't know the exact strain on the joint that's telling me something, telling me plain. I trust that signal more than any preset count. Uncounted reps, that's the actual amount. is just a starting point, not the end. I read my body first, then decide where I'll extend. Past it or stop short, that's not weakness, that's not skip. That's actual intelligence applied to every single rep. I don't need external validation for a fixed amount. I need internal honesty about what actually counts. Is genuine effort, genuine limit, genuine test. Not a number that look good on paper, wrote at my desk. I've learned to trust the burn more than I trust the plan. The plan's an estimate made before I even began. The actual set, today's body's different than the page that was written weeks ago. That's not the same stage I'm standing on right now. Effort-based training respects the actual variable that a fixed number neglects. How I'm feeling today, that's not an excuse to be weak. It's the actual honest data that the program can't speak. So I stopped counting reps like they're the only truth. Started counting effort, started counting proof. For genuine exertion, genuine push, genuine test. That's a harder metric than a number that's honest, that's the best way to actually train. Listening closer than the page ever could tell me about my body at this exact stage. Uncounted don't mean lazy, uncounted means I'm aware of the actual signal that a rigid number can't compare. Made it count, not the number. Made it count! Not the number.
Run your thumb across my palm. That's not skin no more. That's years.
On your thumb. Yeah. Rough patch right below my fingers, right where the bar sits. That ain't an accident, that's evidence. That's the bits of every heavy pull that built it layer by layer. No lotion gonna soften what the iron made me wear. Proud, that's not vanity. That's a record on my hand, nobody fakes this. Nobody just decides to demand it. Appear overnight, it cost exactly what it cost. Years of grip, years of chalk, nothing ever lost. I remember when my hands were soft, when the bar felt sharp, digging in uncomfortable. Every session left a mark that healed rough instead of smooth. That's the actual process nobody talks about, nobody posts the progress of skin adapting to the exact demand it's under. That's biology, not magic, not some mystical wonder. Just rich repeated pressure teaching the body what to build. Calloused hands of proof, a promise got fulfilled. Feel I can read the bar just by where my canvases catch. Know exactly where my grip sits without a single glance. A match between the exact position and what my hands recall. From every session before this, from every single haul. That's tactile memory built into the actual skin. Not something I think about, something that lives within. The exact texture of my palm, that's a language too. Calloused hands speak a truth that words don't have to prove. Some people file them down, keep the skin soft and smooth. I let mine build, let mine stay. That's the actual proof of consistent work. I don't need to explain or defend. Every rough patch tells the story clearer than a friend could tell it for me. That's not something bought or given. That's something built through every single session. Lives through every heavy pull, every honest gritty rep. Calloused hands are the receipt I'll never regret. I've had these calluses longer than some friendships lasted. Built slower but permanent, nothing rushed, nothing hasted. Poured every layer added, took exactly what it took. That's a patience most people never actually looked at long enough to understand. They want the shortcut skin, soft and unmarked. I want the proof of where I've been. Written into my own palm, that's a map nobody reads but me. And that's enough, that's exactly what I need.
Set it down like the chalk. Look down at my own hand, read the exact history that only I understand fully.
Every rough patch of season, every callous a year of showing up regardless. That's the actual gear I carry with me everywhere. Don't need to take it off, don't need to prove it separate, don't need to show it off. It's just there, permanent, honest, earned and true. Calloused hands don't lie about what I've been through.
Still rough, still earned. Still earned. Still earned.
20
20 years of the wrong stance. Now I gotta forget it on purpose.
Rewire!
Coach said my grip's been wrong since day one of my life. Muscle memory fighting back like it's protecting the wife. I try to new position, feels foreign, feels weak. That's not regression, that's the actual technique. Habit trying to take back over every single set. I catch it corrected, that's a debt I gotta let myself pay off slow. No shortcut through the awkward phase. Unlearning takes longer than learning, that's the exact maze. 20 years of a stance that felt automatic and right. Now every single rep feels like I'm losing the fight against my own body, defaulting back to what it knows. I gotta consciously override it, that's the actual throes of changing something deep, not surface level, not quick. Every rep's a small correction, every rep's a brick towards a new pattern, replacing the old default. That's not weakness showing, that's not something to hold. The weight feels heavier in the new position at first. Not cause it's actually harder, cause the pattern's not rehearsed. Yet my body's still translating through the old familiar way before it learns the shortcut that takes real time, real pay. I don't rush the process just to feel strong again fast. I let the octave phase run its exact course, let it last as long as it needs. That's the actual respect for what it takes to genuinely correct. Every session I catch the old habit trying to creep back in. That's not failure, that's the actual work, the actual win. Catching it before it fully takes back over the rep. Correcting consciously, that's a discipline I've kept. Even when it's frustrating, even when the number drops on the exact lift I'm relearning, that's when it actually stops mattering. How heavy matters that the pattern's right. Unlearning the old way takes more will than the fight. I used to think changing technique was starting from zero. Turns out it's harder, fighting the pattern that's a hero. In my own nervous system, deeply grooved, deeply set from years of reps that built the exact habit I regret. Now I gotta consciously override every single time until the new way becomes automatic, becomes a rhyme. My body defaults to naturally without the fight. That's the actual goal, patient, deliberate, and right. Months and now the new position starting to feel home. Old habit shows up less often on its own. That's the actual progress, not the weight I'm lifting now. The pattern finally shifting, finally learning how to be automatic without me forcing every rep. Unlearning was the hardest training I've ever kept. Committed to harder than adding weight to the bar. Rewiring was automatic, that's the actual scar. New pattern, almost automatic.
Now watch the surge, hit and go. Surge! Woo! Let's go. Hit the number. Now watch the surge. Hit the number. Learn. Now watch the surge, hit and go. Bar comes down, whole body floods at once, heart racing loud, hands shaking, that's the exact response. Adrenaline hits hard right after the exact PR. That feeling don't last long, that's honest, that's the actual bar. Everybody sees the celebration, sees the shout. Nobody sees the crash coming right after it, right about 90 seconds later when the chemical high fades. That's the part they don't post, that's the part real gains trade. I stopped chasing that surge like it's supposed to stay. Learners built the spike and drop. That's the actual play of the exact chemistry, the exact biology. Not a metaphor, not something I made up, it's the physiology. Right after victory, right after the exact win. Hands still shaking while the room starts closing in on the actual quiet that follows every single peak. That crash ain't weakness, that's the honest physique. I used to think something was wrong when the high left fast. Now I know that's the exact design that's built to last. Only a few minutes, that's how adrenaline's supposed to run. Sharp spike, sharp fade, that's not something that I run. I let it happen natural, don't chase the feeling back. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's the actual honest fact. The lift still happen, the number's still permanent and real. Even after the exact chemical rush stops how it feels. Some dudes chase that high every single session they in, trying to feel that surge again, trying to feel that same win feeling. That's how people get hurt, chasing the exact high instead of the exact training. Instead of asking why, I respect the search for what it is. Temporary, brief, not not the actual goal. Not something to chase for relief from the boring steady work that actually builds the game. The surge is just a bonus, not the actual campaign.
Hey, I remember the exact shake of my hands after the pull. Heart still racing loud, chest still completely full of something chemical that faded in a couple minutes flat. That's not disappointing, that's just honest, that's just that.
The actual biology of a body under real stress, responding exactly how it's built to nothing more, nothing less. I don't need the surge to last to know the lift was true. The number stays permanent even when the rush is through. Racket hand steady now, hard back to the exact rate. Surge came and went completely, that's the exact debate. Settled, that's not less impressive, cause the feeling didn't stay. The lift's permanent, the surge was never built to stay. I respect both parts, the chemical and the concrete. Numbers staying solid long after the exact heartbeat. Slows back down to normal, that's the honest cycle here. Surge and crash, both real, both part of every year.
Study now, numbers real. Steady now. Yeah. And 4 bars loaded. Mind ain't locked. Chest tight, mind racing, I don't fight it soft. I count it down hard, full counts, cut it off. In 4, feel it feel, hold 4, lock it tight, out 4, push it out, hold 4, hold the fight. This ain't relaxing, this a drill, this a weapon. 10 count, they teach the ones who move in formation. I don't need to feel brave, I need the exact command. 4 count, execute it sharp, that's the demand. Learn this off operators talking about the field. Same drill, different target, same exact yield. Not soft, not gentle, tactical and precise. Every count's a command, every breath's the price. I pay before the heavyweight, before I even try. In 4, hold 4, that's not a lullaby. That's a system, that's a protocol, that's the exact key. 4 count, execute it right, that's how I stay free. Heart rate drops fast when the count is right. That's not magic, that's the drill, that's the exact fight. Against the system trying to spike before it should. 4 count overrides it, 4 count makes it good. I don't wait to feel ready, I run the count. That builds the readiness, that's the actual amount of control I got over a system running hot. 4 sharp counts, that's the only shot. Some dudes walk up spinning mind loud, chest tight. Now I run the drill first, that's the exact fight. 30 seconds invested, that's not wasting time. That's tactical prep, sharp, precise on the line. Before the actual heavy lift, before the real test. 4 count, 1 through, that's how I get dressed for the exact battle. That's the actual gear, sharper than confidence. That's the drill right here. Every single max attempt starts with the exact same drill. Not superstition, the system of trained skill. Measurable, repeatable, sharp every single time. 4 count, run through, that's the only rhyme I need before I touch the bar. Look before I even lift, that's the tactical edge. That's the actual gift I give myself through discipline, not through hope. 4 sharp counts, but that's how I hold the whoop, whoop, whoop. Unracking system lock, mind sharp, chest tight, but control. That's the drill run through, that's the story told. In 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4. Sharp and precise against the chaos, trying to hijack, trying to slice through my focus. Right before I lift down, let it win. 4 count, drilled hard, that's the discipline. I run through a day for every single heavy try. Sharp, precise, locked in, that's the why. Locked in bars next. Locked in bars next.
Lightweight, few fibers working. Heavyweight, the whole team shows up.
done the work. Body's economical, don't waste what it don't need to jerk into action. Yeah, that's the actual system design. Small units first, that's the biological line that gets crossed as the weight climbs higher on the bar. More fibers caught in, that's not magic, that's not far from simple physics. The nervous system knows the deal. Recruit only what's required, that's the actual feel. Second plate, all more units answering the call. That's the size principle, that's not mystical at all. Small to large in order, that's how the body's built. No wasted energy, no unnecessary guilt trip. Just efficient scaling based on what's required by the exact load. I'm asking the system to have fired every additional plate. Recruits a little more, that's the actual mechanism underneath the score. By the heaviest plate, every single unit's engaged. Nothing held in reserve, nothing left uncaged. That's maximum recruitment, that's the actual peak of what my nervous system's capable to speak through into my muscle. Every fiber pulling its weight, that's not motivation, that's not something abstract. That's literal biology responding to the exact demand I'm placing on it. Rep after rep, fact after fact. I train heavy sometimes just to force the full recruitment. Not every session, that's not sustainable move, but enough to teach my system what maximal feels like, so it knows the exact pattern when the real fight's actually required. Not just a light warm-up set. For recruitment's a skill, not something automatic get until you train your body to access it complete. Every single time the actual load demands defeat. I used to think effort alone determined how much fire I'd learn the actual mechanism is more nuanced, more required. Precision, intent, and load all playing a role in how many fibers actually answer the exact call. That's why lightweight with max effort ain't the same as heavyweight properly loaded. That's not just a name for the same thing that's biologically distinct. Full recruitment needs the actual weight precisely linked. Last rep, every fiber I own is pulling its weight. That's the actual ceiling, that's the actual state of maximal output. Not motivation, not the mood, pure physiology responding the way it should to the exact demand I placed on it. Rep by rep, full recruitment achieved. That's the actual debt my body pays when I ask for everything it's got. Every fiber engaged, that's the actual shot. Full team recruited. Set complete. Yeah. And 4 bars loaded. Mind ain't locked. Chest tight, mind racing, I don't fight it soft. I count it down hard, full counts, cut it off. In 4, feel it feel, hold 4, lock it tight, out 4, push it out, hold 4, hold the fight. This ain't relaxing, this a drill, this a weapon. Same count they teach the ones who move in formation. I don't need to feel brave, I need the exact command. 4 count, execute it sharp, that's the demand. Learn this off operators talking about the field. Same drill, different target, same exact yield. Not soft, not gentle, tactical and precise. Every count's a command, every breath's the price. I pay before the heavyweight before I even try. In 4, hold 4, that's not a lullaby. That's a system, that's a protocol, that's the exact key. 4 count, execute it right, that's how I stay free. Heart rate drops fast when the count is right. That's not magic, that's the drill, that's the exact fight. Against the system trying to spike before it should. 4 count, overrides it, 4 count, makes it good. I don't wait to feel ready, I run the count. That builds the readiness, that's the actual amount of control I got over a system running hot. 4 sharp counts, that's the only shot. Some dudes walk up spinning mine loud, chest tight. Now I run the drill first, that's the exact fight. 30 seconds invested, that's not wasting time. That's tactical prep, sharp, precise on the line. Before the actual heavy lift, before the real test. 4 count, 1 through. That's how I get dressed for the exact battle. That's the actual gear, sharper than confidence. That's the drill right here. Every single max attempt starts with the exact same drill. Not superstition, the system of trained skill. Measurable, repeatable, sharp every single time. 4 count, run through. That's the only rhyme I need before I touch the bar. Look before I even lift. That's the tactical edge. That's the actual gift. I give myself through discipline, not through hope for sharp counts. But that's how I hold the whoop, whoop, whoop. Unracking system lock, mind sharp, chest tight, butt control. That's the drill run through. That's the story told in 404. Out 404. Sharp and precise against the chaos, trying to hijack, trying to slice through my focus. Right before I lift down, let it win. 4 count drilled hard. That's the discipline. I run through with me for every single heavy try. Sharp, precise, locked in. That's the why. Locked in bars next. Locked in bars next.
3 judges, 3 switches. Ball comes down. They decide. Every rep I do in this gym is just rehearsal for the exact 3 seconds. That's actually universal. In competition, no debate, no negotiation. Bar goes down, comes back up, that's the whole equation. I don't get a vote in what the judges see. Depth, lockout, control, that's the entire decree that decides if months of work counts today. 3 white lights so red, no in between, no gray. I've had lips I felt were clean get turned to red. Learn to trust the standard, not just what's in my head. About how it looked, how it felt, how hard I tried. The judges don't care about the effort, just if I comply with the actual requirement. That's the honest test, not my opinion of the lift, not what I felt was best. I trained to the standard that I can't argue with. That's respect for the sport, that's the actual myth. Every training session, I imagine the exact stage. Lights above the platform, judges checking every gauge of what makes a lift legal. I don't cut corners here, cause the corner I cut in training shows up crystal clear on competition day. When the standard don't bend for nobody's effort, nobody's story, nobody's friend. I train for the strictest version of the actual call, not the generous one, the one that don't excuse it all. 3 light, waiting on the other side of every rep. That's the actual accountability I've kept with myself since day one. Since I first understood that my opinion of my lift don't mean it's good enough to count, enough to stand, enough to pass the exact scrutiny that separates the class of lifter who trains honest from the one who cuts it close. I train for the panel, not for how the lift looks, not the pose. I don't need 3 judges physically in the room to hold myself to the standard, to escape the doom of lying to myself about a rep that wasn't clean. I run the exact same panel in my head extreme. Honesty about depth, about lockout, about form. That's the actual discipline that gets me through the storm of a real meat day, where nothing I say matters. Just the lights, just the standard, just what actually flatters. Stood on that platform, heart racing, bar rack clean. 3 seconds felt like forever, held the exact scene. Steady waited on the lights, didn't move a single inch. That's the actual test, that's the actual pinch. Point between the training and the real event. 3 white lights came up, that's the actual content of every early morning, every honest rep I done. White lights don't lie, that's the only verdict, the only one. 3 white lights, lift. 3 white lights, good lift. Little plate 2.5. That's the whole progress. Execute. Everybody wants the 20-pound jump.
wants the big reveal. I load 2 fractional plates, that's the actual deal. Small enough, nobody notices. Small enough, it's real. Not the number that impresses, the number that I feel. Confident, I can move clean, confident it's earned. Ego jumps, look impressive till the form gets burned. Away by way too heavy for the actual skill. I stack it small, I stack it honest, I stack it still. Don't get the comments, don't make anybody kneel in amazement, but stack it 50 times across a year. That's the actual math that makes the big numbers appear later. I don't need the impressive jump today. I need the honest fraction added the right way onto a base that's actually solid, actually true. That's patience nobody claps for, that's what I do. I watched a dude jump 20 pounds and blow his form apart, chasing the number that impressed before he had the start of the actual strength required to move it clean. I don't skip the fraction just to make an impressive scene. Every play I add gets tested, gets confirmed before the next one loads. That's a lesson that I learned the hard way, watching egos break away too fast. Fractional and steady is the only build that lasts. Small plates in my bag, that's my actual pride. Not the 45 I'm loading just to satisfy my pride. The tiny ones that let me out without breaking the form. That's the actual discipline, that's the actual norm. I follow not the flashy jump that looks good for a week, then stalls completely cause the base I built was weak. Fractional progress compounds when nobody's watching close. That's the actual method, that's the one I chose. A year of fractional plates adds up to something real, more than a single impressive session ever could reveal. About actual capacity, actual honest strength, built through patient increments, through consistent length of time invested. Small, not flashy, not dramatic, just steady, just fractional, just quietly emphatic about what actually works when the ego's set aside. Small plates, big patience, that's the actual ride. Happens not in the impressive leap, in the 2.5 pounds that I patiently keep adding session after session, year after year. Fractional blades built this, that's the truth right here. Small plate added again.